Good afternoon, everybody, and I'll welcome everybody to the March episode of Leeds City Council Executive Board. Start off by reminding everybody that this meeting will be webcast and welcome anybody watching online. It is also the first meeting for Temitope Adamosu, who's our Director of Communities, Housing and Environment. So welcome to Executive Board. And I will go straight into the formal items at the top of the agenda. So are there any appeals against refusal of inspection of documents, please?
Thanks, Chair. To confirm, no appeals being received for today's meeting, no.
Thank you. Could you take us through the exempt information, please?
Of course, Chair. Thanks. Appendix A to item 6, which is Leeds Economic Vision Delivery Update and City Fund. Appendix B to item 7, Elland Road Regeneration. Appendix 1 to item 11, which is Adult Social Care Provider Loan Agreement. Appendix 2 to item 12, which is Design and Cost Report for Contract Award and Authority to Spend for Holbeck Sports Hub. And Appendix 2 to item 14, Community Asset Transfer of Greenacre Hall. All of these have been designated as being exempt from publication under Access to Information Procedure Rule 10.43, and should Executive Board confirm approval, those appendices will be considered in private at the conclusion of the public part of the meeting.
Thank you. Item 3 and late items. We have one late item, which is the Young Futures Early Adopters Report, which will be taking after item 8 under Councillor Khan's papers. And I'll turn to the committee to turn to the board to see if there's any declarations of interest, please. Councillor Lamb.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I need to declare disclosable pecuniary interest in item 13 because of the decision about pub and live venue business rates relief as I operate a pub business in Leeds. I'll be leaving the meeting during consideration of that item, and with the Chair's and the Board's permission, Councillor Buckley will take my place as a non-voting member at that point.
Thank you. And of course, Councillor Buckley is very welcome. Are there any more declarations of interest? I don't see any. I'm going to turn to item 5, which is the minutes of the meeting from February, and I'll check everybody is happy with those. That's great, thank you. So we're on to the first paper on the agenda, which is item 6 and Councillor Pryor, please.
Thank you, Chair. So this is the Leeds Economic Vision Delivery Update and City Fund. So this paper is the first update of the delivery of the Leeds Economic Vision since its launch in October 2025. This paper highlights the huge potential for economic growth in Leeds, which includes a list of major projects that together have the potential to grow the Leeds economy by £20 billion over the next decade, and the potential to create 100,000 new jobs. Leeds is driving growth through 3 major areas. So that's health tech, financial and professional services, as well as AI and digital innovation. So in health tech, Leeds is ranked 3rd globally, and the innovation arc is central to building on that success. Work is underway on the new Innovation Village, which is backed by the West Yorkshire Investment Zone funding. In finance and professional services, the Leeds reforms recognise the city as a national centre of expertise. Our goal is to double sector growth over the next decade and create 50,000 jobs in this area. With the Office for Investment promoting Leeds to global firms, our Northern Square Mile continues to attract major companies. And then in AI and digital, Leeds is aligning with the UK's ambition to lead in AI innovation. And that includes Microsoft's 100 million investment at Skelton Grange. And this will anchor a major new data and technology cluster. And together, these areas form the foundation of Leeds' future economy and its ambition for high quality, innovation-led growth. And that's just part of this paper. This paper also requests that Executive Board support the endorsement of the Royal Armoury's ambition to deliver a new conference and exhibition facility. It is great in the meeting today to have Honorary Alderman John Proctor, the chairman, and Nat Edwards, who believe is the Master of Armouries, which is perhaps the best job title anyone's going to have in this room here today. So the Royal Armouries Museum has ambitious plans to transform its current Tilt Yard complex into a premier multi-purpose riverside art, events and next generation conference destination. The development is designed to significantly bolster the city's capacity for large-scale events, such as the UK's leading property and investment conference, UK REEF, which has Leeds confirmed as its host city later this year. And this is aiming to attract around 300,000 additional visitors annually. It can support 400 additional jobs in the city and generate more than 700 million GVA over its project life. The paper also seeks to reaffirm the council's support for securing the reuse of Temple Works. This would facilitate the unlocking and delivery of over 3,000 homes, 100,000 square foot of commercial space, as well as a new potential British Library North. This is as well as supporting the formation of a mayoral development zone, which will facilitate the delivery of the Leeds Transformational Regeneration Programme. The paper also seeks support for the Leeds South Bank proposal and seeks approval for the Director of City Development to finalise the council's New Town proposal for potential inclusion in the government's New Town programme. This is as well as seeking executive board support to enter into contract with WICA to deliver skills and employment support, including authority to spend 3.2 million to deliver vital employment and skill services supporting economic growth in Leeds. And finally, I appreciate this is a mammoth paper. The paper also supports entering into a contract with WICA for the extension of business support programme covering the 26 to 29 period and will support funding agreements with our delivery partners. I shall leave it there for introductory comments.
Thank you. Councillor Lamb, please.
Yep, thank you very much, Chair, and thank you for the introduction. Gosh, we're doing a lot in this paper, aren't we? An awful lot of very positive things for the city. I think the first and probably most important thing to say in an uncertain world is everyone involved in this can be assured of cross-party support for these many important investments in the city, starting with the armouries, just in the order on the paper. If I can add my welcome to my former ward colleague, Honorary Alderman Proctor. Good to have him back here. I've had the privilege of having a look around the Royal Armouries and see the plans. This would really be transformative for the city. The conference capacity and the things that would be unlocked along with that are absolutely critical. So I think it's right that we're getting full square behind that. And yeah, it's very exciting. The new town, the South Bank, were again absolutely transformative for the city. It's the whole theme of the paper, really. The one question I'd have for officers, just for some reassurance, while saying that we'd give full support to this, is just around the business rates, and obviously again in uncertain times, how confident we are that all of this funding is locked in and future-proofed, both against changes and shocks to the economy, but also changes in governments and things, and that we've got really solid legal agreements around funding and financing, and that it can't be unlocked once we've made decisions here and we don't find ourselves that in 10 years time we've funded things over 20 and 25 years and someone comes along and pulls the plug on it. So that's my only question, but other than that, wholeheartedly support everything that's in here.
Thank you, Councillor Lamb. Who wants to speak? Angela, please.
Thank you, and thank you, Councillor Lamb. I can give you the assurance that as we're working with colleagues across government, that we will be creating a facility that we can then draw down on. So each investment will be taken on its own merits at that point in time. We have got the assurance that obviously that this will lock in any issues around potential business rate reform should that emerge over the next 25-year period.
Thank you. If nobody else wants to comment on this paper, I'll turn to the recommendations on pages 36 and 37. I'll take it from the comments. Everybody is happy with those recommendations. That's great. Thank you. We are on to item 7. Councillor Pryor, if you could tell us about football, please.
I will certainly endeavour to do my best. So this is the Elland Road regeneration. This paper is seeking Executive Board to endorse the principle of the Council entering into legal agreements with Leeds United FC and their affiliate LFG for the future disposal of council land in proximity to Elland Road Stadium. This would be on the basis that the land would be disposed at market value by the purchaser. The paper is also seeking to agree that any future capital receipts generated from this disposal will be utilised to invest in infrastructure and regeneration at the Elland Road site. This paper follows the Elland Road formal planning statement that was brought to the last Executive Board in February, which detailed the huge growth potential in the Leeds area. The development of Elland Road Stadium and disposal of this land will hugely benefit the local area. Unlocking this land will not only potentially support the delivery of a new 53,000 seat stadium, but will contribute to our Leeds economic vision and help regenerate the Elland Road area. It's really important that we build on the momentum of schemes in the South Bank of Leeds by facilitating this regeneration in Elland Road, and we'll make a much stronger South Leeds corridor that can be a hub for economic growth. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lamb, please.
Thank you, Chair. That was very good, Councillor Pryor, for espousing your football knowledge. Yes. So I think you can see around the country the impact that these kind of developments have had. You only have to look to Manchester and what Man City have done. Close to my heart, go to Bramley Moor Dock in Liverpool and the mighty Blues of Everton. And I'm not the only one around the table who has an interest there, but what that's doing for those communities is enormous. So it's not speculation that investing and unlocking these regeneration opportunities will go way beyond the impact on the football pitch. Again, the Thorpe Arch training ground is in my ward, so I'm very interested in what's happening there, and there's investment going on. It's a real positive for the city to see the commitment of the Leeds owners long term after a lot of uncertainty into the city, and it's very welcome. So it's quite right that the council should be using its resource and capacity and ability to help to unlock that and support it. The one elephant in the room in all of this is the impact of mass transit. And I'll use the politically correct term of reset of mass transit, and how that feeds into this. So the question is around what the council's view and what officers' view is of the impact of delays to mass transit and uncertainty around routes, because actually getting that locked in as soon as possible is critical to unlocking this investment, and we need to do all we can. I'm clear where the responsibility sits. It's not in this council, but we need to be in all we can as a council to use our influence in the combined authority to get certainty and clarity around mass transit as quickly as possible.
What I would say is that the development in this paper isn't contingent on the tram. I think a tram there would severely enhance the work we're doing, which is exactly why we are full behind that and fully supportive, but the work isn't contingent on it.
I'd also add, and we're both combined authority members, Councillor Lamb, so put that down for the record. You know, the financial commitment for development of the tram is there in the government funding plans moving forward. Not the full amount, but there is a significant financial commitment there. And I think the reality is work is happening on developing the tram. And when you take a sit down and have a sober look about how long it takes to do things, and we haven't got time here to have a debate about how long it takes to do things in this country, you know, to get through detailed design, consultation, public inquiry, procurement and construction. It is, you know, that is a journey that we are on, and there is a realistic timetable to do that. And by realistic, I mean there is no one's dragging the feet at this point in time. It is just that is how long it takes for projects like this to happen. I think anything we can do. And this probably does overlap a bit with the council to try and accelerate that timetable will definitely be part of. But there are some really important steps. First of all, consultation. We know these schemes do affect homes and businesses, and that's really important to get right. And secondly, the getting to and then getting a result from a public inquiry is also, you know, a significant statutory step, and that's something as well that we will support. There's no other comments on this paper. I will take it that everybody, from the comments made, everybody's happy with the paper. That's great. Thank you. Thanks, Councillor. Thanks, Councillor Prime. We'll move on to your papers, please, Councillor Khan.
Thank you, Leader. Can I also welcome Temi Torpe as the Director for Communities, Housing and Environment, and I look forward to working with you as well. And coming back to agenda item 8, This paper updates on Pride and Place, the government's 10-year strategy to invest in disadvantaged neighbourhoods, with up to 20 million available for each area identified, and represents a real opportunity for Leeds. The changes in each area are intended to be resident-driven and led by neighbourhood boards, each with its own independent chairs. Four areas have been identified in Leeds. These areas are Middleton Park Avenue, Armley New Wortley, Farnley East, and Seacroft North, Monkswood. For the first 2 to 3 years, the council will be accountable body for the funds and provide admin support, programme development and implementation. The programme gives us the opportunity to regenerate these areas, so brings about real and lasting change for residents in these neighbourhoods. So, Leader, I will leave it there and happy to hand over to officers for further details.
Thanks, Councillor Khan. Paul Money, Chief Officer, Safe Stronger Communities. I mean, just to add that I'd like to think that we've got a really good track record in the City Council in terms of working closely with our residents and our communities, and in particular would reference the work we've done in recent years on our priority neighbourhood agenda, where we have seen increased levels of deprivation and inequality, and I think there's some excellent working practices there that we can lean on in terms of supporting local communities in the Pride in Place areas, do exactly what Councillor Khan has just said, actually, lead on and be empowered to improve their local communities in a number of ways. So other than that, nothing else to add. Leader, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lamb, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And can I also offer my warm welcome to the new director? We haven't had a chance to meet yet, but I'm sure we'll put that right soon enough. So, but yeah, very welcome. So I think we can never not welcome this kind of investment into the city. There's so I think I'd probably say it's a cautious welcome, that it's a positive thing. I very much like the idea of local communities being in control of how the resources are directed. It comes with some concerns that we just need to make sure we get things right. So the sort of things I'm looking for reassurance about is, see, that there's funding for the first 2 years for support, and it's very clear for the first 2 years that the council are going to be at the forefront of delivering this. But what happens after that? Also, how much of the resource is expected to go to administration rather than actual delivery? Is it built into the 20 million blocks, or is it something the council is expected to fund over and above that? How are we going to manage the setup of the boards that will look at this and make sure they're properly reflecting the broad interests of communities and they don't get hijacked by people with narrow interests, and there is proper opportunity for it's good that it's community led, it's good that it's very flexible, but that comes with downsides as well, because it's not clear what we're measuring in terms of an impact, what specifically we're hoping this will drive in terms of change. And the final bit is, what opportunities are there within this to generate more money on top of the 20 million, so that we use that to lever in additional resource and investment into those communities, because this can make a big difference, but on its own it's not going to transform situations. It could be the catalyst to transform them if we use it right and get these boards set up well. And so I think we give it a cautious welcome, up for working with you to make sure that it works and lands well. But if you could just give some reassurance around those points, I'd be grateful.
Thank you. Paul, would you like to come in, please?
Yeah, and thank you for the comments, Councillor Lamb, in terms of support for this initiative, which we also appreciate. And and some of your thoughts in terms of how best to take this programme forward have been uppermost in our minds as we've been working with colleagues across MHCLG, but also, I guess, more pertinently, individual residents and stakeholders in these particular areas to make sure that some of the areas that you've highlighted there are progressed in the way that that is intended, i.e. local communities taking back control of their areas. You're right in terms of the observation concerning council support to this initiative, at least for the first couple of years. I think the key thing for us is to ensure that we support the constitution really of those neighbourhood boards and the setup of those neighbourhood boards and the identification of the independent chairs in a way that will ensure that local areas, we optimise the opportunity for local areas, not just to benefit from the funding, but to be influential in terms of what needs doing, when and where. I also think your point about the opportunity potentially for match funding some initiatives, bearing in mind the high level initiatives are around building stronger communities and that essence of taking back control for local people are uppermost in our minds, and it's certainly our intention to work to support the progression of the neighbourhood boards in each of the 4 areas, so that they can, in effect, take on that broader responsibility once they're up and running and operating effectively. There's an awful lot of work going on at the moment in terms of consultation and engagement with local MPs, local councillors and local stakeholders to make sure that those arrangements are fit for purpose and that we are ready to go by the timescales that we've been given. In terms of the fund, there's a minimal amount of setup funding being allocated within the arrangements for council support. We didn't have additional resource that we could just move across to this. It is a minimal amount. I'll just check with a colleague, but I think it's about 5.9% of the overall funding in terms of the support arrangements, and we will support these arrangements moving forwards through our existing communities team who have that experience of working, as I've said, really closely with local communities and other council and wider partners already. In terms of some of the broader detail around your other questions, I'll just defer to a colleague who's working directly on this particular initiative, just to pick up on any further points if you wish to, Stuart.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Chair. Stuart Byrne, Safer Stronger Communities team. Just to say, paragraphs 10 and 11 within the report outline the expected implementation programme for the first 2 years, which will be expected of the council. After that time, it will be up to the independent boards as to whether they wish to form some form of community interest company, charitable status, and take on further role. They may well determine that they'd like the council to stay as the accountable body, but until that stage and until they're established, we don't know exactly the path they'll go down.
Thank you, Stuart. Councillor Lamb, please.
Yeah, thank you. So just in terms of the 5.9% you referred to, is that over the lifetime of the project? So it's 20 million over 10 years, I think is how this works. So it's not an insignificant amount. It's over £1 million that goes on admin. So is that for the whole life? So 5.9% a year. So it's there to support the group and the boards going forward, or is that upfront for the council to help get things up and running?
So that figure amounts to 2 members of staff per area and a member of staff to oversee the financial oversight and all of the checks that need to be done with it. Within financial regulations to fulfil our role, and that 5.9% will be for as long as however many years we run that, we take that role on for as the council.
Thank you. Paul, please.
Oh, yeah, and just to clarify, if it's helpful, Councillor Lamb, that it's up to a maximum of. So what we're looking to do is resource and support the neighbourhood boards and the 4 Pride in Place areas in the appropriate way we need to get them into a position where our aspiration would be all 4 of them will be freestanding in that 2 to 3 year period, and then our resourcing commitment can be reduced as a consequence of that. As Stuart has said, some of this we're just going to have to see how it plays out and how it goes, but that would be our intention. We genuinely want to ensure that the money that's been set aside for this particular initiative is seen to benefit local people. That's the high level aspiration, and with that in mind, it's up to 5.9%.
Thank you, Paul. If there's no more comments on that paper, I'll turn to the recommendations on page 88. I'll take from the comments everybody's happy with those recommendations. That's great, thank you. So we'll move on to the late item, please, Councillor Khan.
Thank you, Chair. I am delighted to bring this paper today, which asks for Exec Board approval to accept the £100,000 we have been awarded as one of the 8 early adopters for Young Futures Hubs programme. The paper outlines that 425,000 is to be used to establish the hub by April the 1st this year, which is awarded to Barker Leeds. As an early adopter, we have a test and learn area, helping establish what works, what doesn't, in advance of the national rollout of the hubs over the next 4 years. The hub will offer a range of youth-led programs, health and well-being, sport, and safer inclusive space, with aim to improve health and well-being, reduce crime, and improve outcomes for young people. Please note that due to the timescale involved, this paper is exempt from the call-in, as this is being delivered jointly by myself and with children and families. I would like to bring Councillor Hayden in at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you to Councillor Khan. And I'd like to start by thanking the small group of officers involved at bringing this forward at such pace. As early adopters, the timescale set nationally for this have been extremely challenging, and the fact that we're in this position today to accept this funding and move ahead with delivery is entirely down to the hard work, professionalism and commitment of colleagues in communities and children and families directorates and our partners. Their determination to make this happen for young people in Leeds is incredible, and I am incredibly proud of all of them. This programme represents a real opportunity for us. As an early adopter, we are helping to shape what the national model will look like for years to come. That's something we should be proud of, and reflects the strength of our youth work offer and our long-standing child-friendly Leeds ambition. I'd like to highlight the focus on inclusion and co-design. We know that too many young people still face barriers accessing support, whether due to poverty, SEND needs, caring responsibilities, or might just not feel that traditional services are for them. This hub and spoke model, combined with outreach and a strong digital offer, gives us a chance to reach those young people in new and meaningful ways all across Leeds. The partnership with Barker Leeds, alongside other providers, shows the value of working with community organisations who already have strong relationships with young people. This is exactly the kind of collaborative, preventative approach that keeps young people safe and supported. The programme aligns closely with our wider ambitions to create opportunities for young people in Leeds to thrive. I'm very pleased to support the recommendations in the report and look forward to seeing the positive impact this work will have across the city and the impact that we in Leeds will have across the country. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lampley.
Thank you, Chair. About 100 years ago, I was responsible for the youth service in Leeds, and I've remained passionate about it ever since. We had some brilliant youth workers and youth work in the city then, and we still do today. As you know from the budget, I have some thoughts and ideas on other ways we can do it and different ways and modernising around some things that work well in the city, because it's not just the council that do really good youth work. There are lots of organisations around the city delivering fantastic provision for young people. One of my biggest frustrations, without getting into the politics of who and why, is we're still talking about the number of young people not in education, employment and training. It's one of the big issues we were talking about when I first joined the council in 2007, and we're here nearly 20 years on, and it's still stubbornly high, not just in Leeds but nationally, and it's something that needs to be addressed. So when opportunities come to take more money targeted at young people and youth work, absolutely take it 100%. The questions for me, I mean, from what's set out in the paper, it's a no-brainer. Of course, we should take it. Of course, we should be at the forefront of doing this. The questions I have really are around the success and measuring. So it's on page 9. So how will success be measured? For my liking, I appreciate the pace this has been done at, but it's a bit vague in terms of what, and it would be good to hear some specifics about what we expect to see in terms of outcomes. What is the impact, for example, going to be on children not in education, employment and training? What have we got some ambitious targets? And a bit like the previous paper, is there an opportunity with this money to lever in more and get more support? To me, that should be the model. It's not just about what the council can do with what it's got. It's about how we use what we've got to then do even more and go further. And you look to other partners, private, voluntary sector, third sector, businesses. It's an area where a lot of people are willing to be philanthropic as well. And so I think there's again a real opportunity to do something hugely significant. It's not on its own a massive amount of money. It can make a big difference, but I think we could do even more. And as with the players, absolutely up for working with you to try and explore how we can do that and how we can get the maximum benefit from this, and really try and tackle some of these deep-rooted generational problems, and give our young people the best possible start in life.
Thank you, Councillor Lamb. Who would like to comment on that? Jude, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Lamb, for those questions. If I can just address the last point you made in terms of further funding opportunities. This is a 12-month delivery period, but there is an intention that will roll into 2 further years, in particular around the hub itself, that hub model that Councillor Hayden and Councillor Khan mentioned. This is very much a preventative piece and a test and learn piece in terms of sort of around what we would call universal services. And you mentioned council youth services, and this is wider, and this is about open access for young people, even broadening out some of those relationships to things like the Cubs and the Scouts movements within Leeds, and so ensuring that we've got a wider partnership to look at young people. And you talked about those 3 pillars that we're working on around outcomes. So that's crime, mental health, and opportunities around education and employment. There is an external evaluator that's been appointed by DCMS that we'll be working with to look at those outcomes. But I think there are some opportunities for ourselves to do something around that. So we're going to be applying something called a theory of change, which will look at sort of some of those outcome options for us, but in particular using young people's voice to sort of shape some of what that looks like. Some of this is about, I guess, value and what we're offering value within for young people in the city, not just around fiscal achievements. So we'll be looking at a slightly different way of looking at outcomes, I think, but involving young people and certainly some of the organisation, the voluntary sector. And one of the pieces of the review, we had a review, and it was identified around our relationship with the voluntary sector as a local authority, and we've really improved that as part of this process. So I think we would certainly welcome any further conversation around outcomes as well. So hopefully I've answered your questions.
Thank you. Councillor Hayden, please.
Yeah, and huge thanks to Jude. And yeah, I just want to reiterate that this is the test and learn. It's over a 12-month period. We're really excited and to get this opportunity, but there is the external evaluator. because the government wants to learn from what we find and what we can do, the challenges are, what is not possible, and we are very committed to knowing what those impacts will be, what they could be, what we could take further in the years following. So it is a test and learn. We will benefit from it. There is absolutely no doubt about it. But the rest of the country will benefit from what we learn, as well as us over the following 2 years, and hopefully into the future. Then I just wanted to talk about the fact that when the assessors came to Leeds, what they were impressed about was that we have youth services. They are not what they were even when I was elected 11 years ago. And we won't go into the reasons for that, but that's nothing to do with the quality of the people who work there, which is extremely high, which is why we've been given this opportunity, this test and learn opportunity, but also the fact that we have a youth alliance, that we are in strong partnerships with the third sector and private sector and other public sector bodies across Leeds with our child-friendly initiatives, and that we actually have that infrastructure of the Youth Alliance. That gave the assessors confidence that we could take this forward, and that we would be a really good place for that test and learn experience. So we're already very, very committed to working with partners right across the city, as we have done for years.
Thank you. Councillor Khan, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Lamb, and Councillor Hayden has stolen my thunder, actually, what I'm going to say. But I'm just going to say, you're right. We're really lucky that we've got this money, and we're going to hold it, work with anchor organisations, as Jude says. And our officers have worked really hard to get this bid together. The timescale was very, very slow, narrow and small. So by 19th of February, the bidding needs to be in, and Jude's done really well. The team's done really well actually to get the bid in, and now we've got the money. But going forward, I think, yes, we've got great opportunities to work with, as Councillor Hayden said, with third sector organisations, with other anchor organisations that would work with young people, and especially working for employment and training young people, get them back in those areas. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm going to turn to the recommendations, which are in the late paper on page 3. And I take it from the comments everybody is happy with those recommendations. That's great. Thank you. So we will move on to Councillor Rafiq's papers and item 9, please.
Thank you, Leader. Building on the huge and ongoing success of Leeds Pipes, this report details the outcome of the procurement process to develop a new zonal scale low carbon heat network in the city centre, with the initial phase being in the south bank of the city, which the council has secured 23.5 million in capital grant funding to support. The paper seeks approval to award a development agreement to the successful provider. Following approval, the DFP, which is the development funding partner, will complete the technical, commercial, financial and legal preparation work. These proposals are expected to be submitted in early 2027 for assessment by the council. The Leeds Pipes heat network is already well established in Leeds, with initial work being completed in October 2025 on its 4th phase. Over 4,100 residential properties are already connected to the network, including 2,000 council flats and 30 public and commercial buildings. The current project has saved over 7,000 tonnes of carbon in 2025 alone. Expanding this scheme across the South Bank will further increase its impact and provide a significant benefit to the city. Should we bear in mind that the new network will be delivered on a different basis to the Leeds Pipes, with the council not making any financial investment, but taking more of enabling rather than lead role. And the development funding partner will be financing, owning, developing, operating the actual network and maintaining the actual network. However, the council will enter into a joint venture with the DFP and will retain a level of influence and control over a range of areas, including the rate of growth of the network, its carbon performance and customer standards and pricing. It's a bit of a technical report. I'll stop there and ask Polly if you want to add on something before we open to question and comments.
Polly, please.
Only to say for me, it's an absolutely amazing opportunity for the city. So we're the first city to get to this stage with the new process that DESNZ have implemented. And this will be the third district heating network the city is developing at city scale, and it works towards the government's target of 20% of heat being provided by district heating by 2050. And as the city will be well on track for that. So obviously I'm really proud of it.
Thank you. Councillor Lamb, please.
Yep, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think it's common sense and is a success story for Leeds, the pipes network and the district heating system. If I understand correctly, we're using a substantial amount of the heat generated from the incinerator, but nowhere near the capacity it could deliver. My question is really about the long term around this. As we're putting significant infrastructure, this is going to add to that. How reliant are we on one source being the incinerator for the heat, or are we looking as a long-term strategy to look at other heat generating sources in the future, like data centers and things? Because there's almost a perverse incentive to burn more rubbish if we keep expanding the network. And while the incinerator was a step in the right direction to stop things going to landfill, it's actually now time has moved on. It's not a huge polluter. It's much better than going to landfill, but it's not the most efficient way. And over time, you would imagine we'd want to burn less waste, not more. But we will also want to keep fueling this heat network. So what's the long-term plan to keep heat going into the pipes from cleaner and more reliable sources?
Polly, please.
I think that's the great advantage of district heating network. The infrastructure, the pipes are set up, but actually the fuel source can vary over time. So if we look what's happening in London, they're looking at sewage heat. There's other areas of the country that are looking at water source heat pumps. So all of those can connect into the network, geothermal energy. And so it's got that complete flexibility. And actually the network that we're looking at this time, specifically within this paper, it's already looking at waste heat from an alternative source. So all the time that we do still have waste that we need to dispose of, it makes sense to use the energy from waste plant because that heat would just be going up into the atmosphere. However, you know, the long-term plan is always to look for alternative heat, alternative waste sources, and the network and the technology is completely built for that.
Thank you. Are there any more comments on this paper? Okay, I'll turn to recommendations on page 112. And from the comments, I take it everybody's happy with those recommendations. That's great, thank you. And we're on to Councillor Harlan's paper and item 10, please.
Thank you, Leader. The Leeds Affordable Housing Plan sets out our ambition to lead the way in supporting government actions set out in the Delivering a Decade of Renewal for Social and Affordable Housing strategy. With partners, we aim to continue our track record of being a national exemplar, expanding our performance in being a leading core city for affordable housing growth, with a greater proportion of these homes being for social rent rather than the national average. As ward members, we all know that this is how important that this is. This new plan is ambitious because it needs to be. The 2025 update to the Strategic Housing Market Assessment shows that over 1,500 affordable homes are needed annually to meet our housing needs. Hence, the plan aims to scale up and deliver more affordable homes than ever before by the end of the plan period, with a target of 1,500 per annum. This responds to the government's ambition to deliver 1.5 million homes and the new funding and financing landscape we now operate in, including the 10-year social and affordable homes programme, changes to the right to buy policy and the new funding and financing tools. This is alongside the opportunities that devolution and the wider integrated settlement may present with us over the coming months and years. While our delivery record is extremely strong, we know we need to do more to provide homes for our communities and those most in need, and this plan will help us to do that. The report went before scrutiny a few weeks ago where the support was really welcomed. The report makes reference to the exec board member support, so I must thank my predecessor, Councillor Jess Lennox, for her input into this work and for her support to me since inheriting this role. I'd also really like to thank officers, especially Krista and Mark, for their work in getting this strategy to where it is and their continued innovative work in this very important area for our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harland. Councillor Lamb, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Harland, for the introduction. You're quite right. This is one of the most important issues to a lot of our residents. So how they, where they live, how they get their first homes, and there's a lot of work to do on it. I think the main point I would sort of put a plea for in this is to have, as much as possible, a localized approach, because the city is very different. As we talked about recently, a one-size-fits-all approach is not going to work for this, because the types of tenures, the types of affordable housing, the mix is very different in different areas, and getting local members, community groups, neighbourhood planning forums, neighbourhood forums, parish councils involved in this as early and frequently as possible, I think will help us to deliver better, because when the conversation is about affordable housing, it's very different to just where are we going to put houses in localities that sometimes can be perceived as being resistant to housing growth. It's the type of housing growth they're bothered about. It's the fact they want people who grew up in communities want to be able to stay there, and people want to be able to grow old in a community they've spent a lot of their life in, and that's the challenge. And so what works in one part of the city is not the right blend somewhere else, and it's really important that we engage local members as well. So it's not so happy to get on board and support it, but it's with that urging that we get a real localized approach, use the power and knowledge of all of those community groups and local members, so that we get the right fit for each part of the city.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to comment on the paper? I don't see anybody else want to come in, so I'm going to turn to the recommendations on page 132. I will go from the comments. Everybody's happy with those recommendations. So we'll move on to Councillor Harris papers and item 11, please.
Thank you, Chair. This report asks Exec Board to approve a loan agreement to an adult social care provider. Under Section 48 of the Care Act, if a regulated care provider stops operating because of a business failure and the local authority must continue meeting the adults' care and support needs that the provider was meeting at the time of the failure. Whilst there's no requirement for the local authority to continue with this exact same care offer or provider, local authorities must consider the impact and disruption caused by the failure of a difficult to replace care provider. The provider subject to this report is considered difficult to replace, and therefore the council is proposing to provide a loan agreement to the provider to stabilise their cash balances. This will ensure all individuals' care and support needs are met and guarantee continuity of care without disruption. The agreement will enable the provider to access a maximum of 1.5 million from the council, with interest charged on the sums drawn down at a commercial market rate. This would be in place by April 2026 and repaid over a 3-year period. The provider has given the council assurance of its financial recovery and efficiency measures over the next 3 years, which will enable the money to be repaid and secure the provider's ongoing solvency and financial resilience. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Lamb, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Conscious that a lot of this item is for good reason exempt from publication, and I will have some questions and comments in the private session, but I just think there's a couple of important things to say in the public part of the meeting. The first thing I'd like to do is to thank Cash Ahmed and Caroline Barrier, who for probably 18 months have been briefing me regularly on this issue. I don't think I've ever been as up to date on an issue, particularly one that's sensitive and difficult as this, and I'm very grateful for that. And I'm particularly well informed on this issue. The reason I wanted to speak now is because I am going to support the recommendations on the paper. I would probably describe it as a necessary evil. It's not a position we'd like to be in. The alternatives are far worse, and that is why I will be supporting the recommendations. It's difficult to talk a lot about it in this part of the meeting. It's important to get that across. I also want to acknowledge Councillor Ritchie, Councillor Galton, and Councillor Firth, and their involvement in this. I won't say any more than that here. I think that's probably all I can say in this section safely. But yeah, I will be supporting the recommendations for that base, because the alternative is a lot worse.
Thank you, Councillor Lamb. Would anybody else like to comment on this paper? I think we recognise what you've said, Councillor Lamb, in terms of it being what we have to do, not what we would wish to do, and I welcome your support. So, as I don't see anybody else wanting to comment on this part of this paper and this part of the meeting, everybody supports the recommendations on page 175. Everybody supports them, so we'll move on to item 12, please, Councillor Arif.
Thank you, Chair. So this report provides an update to Exec Board of the proposed contract award and construction programme for Holbeck Sports Hub. Holbeck Sports Hub is a third of the Leeds Park Live Sports Hubs to be delivered, and will consist of 3 all-weather pitches for football and rugby, 2 large multi-use pitches, a park, landscape work to create biodiversity habitats and play spaces for children. At the heart of the site, there will be a new sports pavilion hub, offering a cafe, meeting space, changing facilities, toilets, and importantly, a new GP surgery, serving a community that has long been under-provided for in terms of access to quality healthcare. Beyond reducing the shortfall of good quality pitches across the city, the delivery of the Holbeck Sports Hub will bring significant benefits, including enabling equal access to sports facilities, providing good quality social spaces for local communities, and improving access to primary care. Furthermore, particular focus of the hubs will be to encourage more women's and girls teams to use the facilities, as well as individuals who do not normally or ordinarily participate in sports, increasing the activity rate within the city and contributing towards our health and wellbeing ambitions. The works are being procured through the Football Foundation's framework, with development costs jointly funded by the Football Foundation and Leeds City Council's capital programme. Once delivered, the Sports Hub will be managed by the National Football Trust, which is a not-for-profit organisation, and all surplus income will be reinvested back into outdoor sports facilities across our city. Crucially, there are no ongoing revenue implications for the council throughout the 25-year lease period, as well as revenue costs, which will be met by the operator. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Arif. Councillor Lamb, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I feel like I'm not doing a very good job of opposing today, because I'm supporting everything that's coming forward, and no exception with this one, which is an excellent scheme. Again, thanks must go to Jane and her team for the work that they've done on this, the third such scheme in the city. The first 2 excellent additions. I think it's something like an extra 560 teams will be able to play as a result of this, which is huge. I'm never shy to say that my ward is the one that has the most football participation of women and girls anywhere in the city. We're the only one that has more women and girls playing football than boys and men. So we'll keep leading the charge, but here's an opportunity to give us a bit of competition, although I'm hoping Jane will be turning her attention to my ward on some of these matters as well. So yeah, it's a great scheme. Look forward to seeing it in practice, and hope it will have a similar impact to the 2 that have been delivered already. And I guess I won't be shy to oppose and criticise where I think it's appropriate, but equally, what a fantastic team of officers we've got in this place in Leeds, and we should celebrate that and thank and welcome the work that they've done.
Thank you, Councillor Lamb. Does anybody else want to come in on this paper? No? I'm going to turn to recommendations. It seems everybody supports them, so we will move on to item 13. Councillor Cooper isn't here today, so we're going to move on to item 13. Yes, yeah. Okay, so we're on to item 13 under the resources portfolio, which is financial health monitoring. Councillor Cooper's not with us today. So, Richard, is there anything you'd like to say to introduce this item, please?
Thank you, Chair. This report just builds on the monthly reporting we have of the council's financial position. In overall terms, we're projecting an overspend of 21.76 million, which is a reduction of 6.79 million from the position we previously reported. As we move towards the end of the financial year, we're getting more certainty as where they where we're going to outturn. And the other point to note, whilst actions are in place to deliver a balanced budget position, ultimately, if we can't balance, then there'll be a requirement and recourse to utilise the council's general reserve to balance the position, and that in turn will require us to reflect in our refresh of the medium-term financial strategy, which comes to this board in September, to build back those reserves to the level that's required by the authority. Just to also point out as well, this report is seeking authority as well to implement the business rate relief of 15% for local venues and pubs, and if approved today, that will be built into the bidding process. Thank you, Chair. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Richard. Councillor Buckley, welcome.
Thank you very much. It's nice to see so many friendly faces, up to a point. Can I ask 2 or 3 questions, actually? But the first one is about the business rates, and the other 2 are about the other matters. On business rates relief, we all know that by piling on extra taxes, such as national insurance contributions and the minimum wage and other costs, the government, in my view, has badly let down the hospitality industry. It's interesting to note that 40 hospitality businesses are closing down every week on average. The 15% relief mentioned in this paper works out a very small discount from bills, which have gone up sometimes by over 100%. However, this damage is all done. I wanted to ask a couple of technical questions, actually. Does the government guidance give the council confidence that it can correctly identify the right establishments that are eligible for relief? And how will it resolve any grey area businesses which might be difficult to categorise? For instance, would a pub still be categorised as a pub if its turnover was largely food? And again, for example, government guidance says where eligibility is unclear, local authorities should also consider broader factors in their considerations, i.e., in meeting the stated intent of policy, that it demonstrates the characteristics that would lead it to be classified as a pub by the natural meaning of the word. For example, being owned and operated by a brewery. Would this include freehold establishments, for example, and would the council seek to operate a liberal policy on this, particularly given that all the relief would be reinstated by the government?
Thank you. I'll ask Richard to start on the technical questions, please.
Thank you, Leader. Just in terms of the business rate, in terms of the government guidance there, we're giving us confidence we have used that guidance to identify circa about 380 properties, which we believe fall into that category. If there are properties that believe, in terms of some of the exceptions, interpretation of the guidance, that haven't been granted the relief, then there'll be the opportunities and mechanism there for them to make representation through to the council in respect to that. But clearly, just in terms of the timing of this paper, what we're trying to do with those 380 properties is to make sure that we get the billing correct, so that 15% discount is taken to start off with. Clearly, if a business comes later in respect to that, then clearly the bill will just have to be revised to reflect that. But we believe, based on the officers' knowledge and skills and experience, that we have correctly picked up and identified 380 properties and businesses that should receive the relief, and they'll get 15% off their bills. Clearly, there'll be a communication, and as I said earlier, if people want to make representational businesses, there'll be the opportunity. But what they will do, will miss that billing. The billing will go out without that 15% discount. If it's determined later that they do fall and that's correct and deal with those grey areas, then bills will be amended. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, I've got a couple of other.
Of course, fire away.
Is the children looked after ambition to reduce the number of children in external care realistically achievable in the time frame set, particularly given that the target of 130 was 77 until change mid-year?
Councillor Hayden, please.
The target of 130 by the end of March is achievable and will be achieved. It was set with consultation with Newton over the autumn, and so it replaces the target of 77. And yeah, it will be achieved by the end of March, and then of the next chunk it will be taken down to 90, which is the next of children safely returning to Leeds and returning to the care of their families or of Leeds City Council.
Thank you.
Final question or comment. Perhaps the interim director of Children's Services could give us his general thoughts on what he found when he was appointed, the financial position of the directorate, and what would he say about the scale of the challenge he is facing?
Over to you, Pete.
Thank you, and thank you, Councillor, for that question. Really quite wide-ranging. I think the first thing to say about the finances in children and families is they have stabilised over the recent months. So that's obviously work that's predated me. We are fully aware of where the additional pressures are within the budget, but we are working hard to sustain the budget position as it's reported today. We are clear that there are a set of challenges and opportunities within children's, probably falling into three significant areas. All of these are linked to the reforms that you've heard some of today. So the work that you've just alluded to for stable and sustainable care, and Councillor Hayden's already reported on that the ongoing work to bring children back into Leeds and to ensure that they, wherever possible, they can be restored to their families is absolutely critical, not just for the financial position, but also because that's the right thing to do. So we'll be monitoring that very clearly, and we're looking at how we strengthen governance around that, particularly for children who are on the edge of care. The second significant area, which again you'll be aware of, is the SEND improvement. So not just tackling the backlog of education, health and care plans, but also preparing the school system for the reforms which are to come, which will require a far greater emphasis on mainstream inclusive provision. And there's some interesting work that's happened there. And the third area is, and again, we've touched on some of this today with the youth hub development, is all of the work that needs to happen to be meeting need earlier, more holistically, and in a way which is enabling of families. So all of that is being gathered up into the work for the families, what we're calling the Families Partnership Board, where we'll be looking at the totality of Best Start, Family First Partnership, early help, and now the work that we are doing jointly with communities on the Youth Hub. So I think what the position that you're asking me is, have we got enough confidence in the governance to ensure that we can not just deliver on the reforms that we have to, but can we do that in a financially constrained environment? So I'll offer you assurance that we have strengthened that governance, and that's work that will be embedding in the next couple of months. We've also turned to the internal governance of the Children and Families Directorate, and we are strengthening particularly finance assurance through a monthly finance assurance board, which will be working with colleagues in finance. We're looking at our internal arrangements for people and culture and how we strengthen that. And thirdly, the forever question in children and families: how do you spot any slow, gentle decline before it manifests itself into real issues? And we are strengthening our approaches to performance management.
Thank you. Are there any more questions or comments on this paper? I don't see anybody, so I'm going to turn to the recommendations on page 220 and 221, and I take it everybody's happy with those. That's great. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Buckley, for stepping in. Somebody could alert Councillor Lamb that moving on to the next item, which Councillor Pryor will be introducing when Councillor Lamb returns.
So this is agenda item 14, the community asset transfer of Greenacre Hall. The report sets out the community asset transfer of Greenacre Hall in Rawdon to Airborough Voluntary Services to the elderly, AVSED, on a 25-year lease. Greenacre Hall was included as a potential community asset transfer in the paper that went to Executive Board in February 25. AVSED are a well-known and respected third sector organisation with over 30 years experience providing services and support to people over the age of 60 in Guiseley, Eden and Rawdon areas, and who moved to Greenacre Hall in 2023. The Guiseley and Rawdon ward members are supportive of this proposal and have also asked it to be put on the record how much they value and appreciate AVSED's hard work in the community. I shall leave it there for public comments.
Thank you. Councillor Lamb, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. It just struck me Councillor Buckley's probably feeling like the Spurs goalkeeper last night after that intervention. Yes, sorry, that's a football-related joke, Councillor Pryor. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to support this one as well. Which I mean, I recognise and acknowledge the communication we got from the ward members earlier in the week. I also think it's important to recognise this isn't something that has developed overnight. It's been coming over many years. So I'd like to recognise the contribution of former Guiseley councillors Paul Wadsworth and particularly Paul Alderson, who I know was instrumental in supporting AVSED and getting them into Greenacre Hall in the first place. And this is a natural next step to transfer the asset to them. So yeah, a lot of work by members across a number of years to get to this point, and yeah, so absolutely support the recommendations.
Thank you, Councillor Lamb. If there's no more comments on this paper, turn to recommendations on page 267. It sounds like once again everybody is happy with those recommendations. That's great, thank you. So I will bring the public part of this meeting to an end.